and welcome to my channel, Books, Guys, and Prayers. My name's Leslie, and today we're going to be talking about The Marigold. This is a buddy read series that's Interview with Vampire inspired. So this prompt is Lestat chooses to endure, read a book where the protagonist has the odds stacked against them. And so we're discussing The Marigold by Andrew F. Sullivan, published in 2023. Other books by the author are Waste, Globe, Mail, and short story collection All We Want Is Everything, among some other books that were actually more of a co-written with another author. And so just for a little bit of a synopsis on the book, it's potentially present day, near future, dystopian Toronto, Canada. It's a large city with a gig economy and a large corporation that have a stronghold on Toronto. So the Marigold is a luxury condo tower with rent where people can't afford to live within the building. That really doesn't seem like healthy or safe for its inhabitants. And in fact, there's this like nefarious mold growing throughout the Marigold. And so buddy reading with me today is Courtney from Tangible Reads. Courtney, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Would you like to tell everyone about your channel?
Well, I am Courtney. My channel is Tangible Reads. And, I embrace the chaos on my channel. So I read a little bit of everything. I've been part of BookTube for maybe about 3 years now. It's been a while, y'all. And it's a fun ride, So, I wouldn't say I have any specific posting channel or schedule, but, I like to do fun things with my channel. So, random things every now and then, but I do sprint consistently for the most part, Tuesdays, 10 a.m. EST, if y'all are available. And that's about it. So hopefully you're reading some good books. That's what I like to do. I read a little bit of everything. So no particular genre there.
Yeah. And you just finished, earlier this month, the first 2 weeks with a boot camp readathon. What inspired you to do that in the first place?
I can't believe I forgot about that. Yes, so boot camp readathon. Very enjoyable readathon, by the way. It incorporates like fitness, reading, just all healthy ideas to just kind of jumpstart you, get you going good. So I started boot camp readathon. This was the third year because I was looking for just an interesting readathon that kind of incorporates things that I like to do. But also I was in the military. So one day I was like looking at some stuff as I was moving things around. I was like, boot camp readathon. And it just kind of piped up there. So I've enjoyed it. We are now doing like the first 2 weeks. I've changed it each and every year. This year, I think, was the best way that I liked it. Is the first 2 weeks of January. So starting new habits. For anybody that wants to work out, you don't necessarily have to. Boot camp readathon is what you make it, and had different modes. So I really did like that style. So each year will be a little bit different, but I do like that first 2 weeks in January and offering options. So it's a good time. If y'all missed it, don't worry. It'll be back next year. So, stretch, hydrate in the meantime, and read some good books. Thank you, by the way, for being a co-host for it.
No, yeah. Thank you for reaching out. I really enjoyed it because it really did give me that kick in the tush that I needed to just jumpstart. I basically just try to focus on the book that we're reading together and another buddy read for next month. Because I've never done that. I usually wait till the last minute and scramble. So this is the first time I've ever really been prepared in any way.
It's the excitement of it, right? It's the enjoyment. Yeah. Am I going to finish? Am I not going to finish? We'll see.
It's a whole other level of like living on the edge.
Exactly.
I'm like, what is this? All right, so moving along. Before we have any kind of spoiler conversation about this book, what's your non-spoiler review of the book?
I think it's a book with a power struggle and a will to survive for many different people. So that's kind of a synopsis. Kind of creepy though too. There's mold, fungi, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of creepy, but it's very interesting. I don't know if it's a book I would have picked up on my own. So, BookTube is always great to direct you towards books that you probably wouldn't see otherwise, and I think this was one of those. I'm not.
Definitely, definitely. I don't feel like I don't really read enough like Canadian literature. So this is I don't know anything about Toronto, and I know that's kind of like everyone knows, but I've never been.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting place for the book to specifically take place in, since I'm not familiar. So
is this a Canadian author? I didn't even look in the bag. Is it a Canadian author?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. I've read a few books lately from people in Canada. I don't know where that's coming from, but I'm not mad at that either.
Yeah.
Diversify my portfolio.
Was there anything in the book that didn't like work for you, or?
Okay, so I'm not an overly critical person. I read for entertainment. Sometimes I don't go as in depth with books. I'll be like, oh, it was a good book, entertain me, and I move on, right? So, but this book, what stood out for me is the overwhelming amount of metaphors. It drives me nuts. So many metaphors for things. I feel like it's people talking around in circles, like Stanley and his little soliloquy about power, and then what's the other guy? Dale, Soda's dad. When this whole thing about conspiracy and what exactly the price for power is, whatever. I'm just like, get to the point. Y'all just spent 3 pages going around in circles. So that was interesting. And then you had the different characters that they introduced. Are we doing spoilers, right?
No, kind of like non-spoiler critique and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then sometimes there was like characters that they introduced, like one chapter, and then they had a purpose. And so, but then it was like, I don't know. I like the idea when you introduce somebody that like you follow through with them. I guess they did follow through to whatever they were, but it's just the idea of you introduce a character for one chapter and then they're not really part of the book later on,
Yeah, I agree. I just felt like I do enjoy books with different characters, but there has to be like better structure to it. Like let's say the Game of Thrones series, A Song of Ice and Fire, each chapter is a character. So some characters don't stay there, but at least you solidly know like this is a character. And then next chapter, I just felt like it's more clear, as where sometimes in this book it felt a little bit convoluted.
Yeah.
I did like the idea of it because it's kind of like we're reading about the Marigold, which is a tower. And so sometimes you'll see like the suite numbers. So I kind of initially liked the idea, but I still wanted it to just be a little more structured, a little more clear. But I also don't know if that was intentional by the author, because we're reading about this structure that's actually very much like in disarray and decay within the interior, So I wasn't really sure about that. But that's about it for my critique. But what I will do before we go forward is I'm going to go ahead and put the spoiler out. So now we can go wild and say whatever we want.
Okay, there you go.
But because we're definitely going to get into it, I'm going to go ahead and start with my first question, which is, what genres would you define this book as? Because there's a lot going on.
I would say this is fantasy, sci-fi. I would call it multi-generational trauma. What else would I consider this? Yeah, okay, I'll leave it at those. Definitely not a romance.
No,
it could. I mean, if we want to really go for a stretch, I wouldn't call it overall a romance, but I mean, you did have Henrietta and Cherry. She did like him. That's a stretch. It's definitely a stretch there, but yes. Definitely a genre blend, I will say.
Yeah, I feel like there is also some body horror elements. There's
Yep.
definitely some body
Horror,
horror.
yes. Yep.
It felt like dystopian. But it was dystopian in a way where I still felt like it's a budding dystopia or something. Like we're starting like the beginning structures of it because it's all
Yeah.
in Toronto. I don't know if what it's called. It's like climate crisis fiction. Does that exist? Like climate fiction? I don't know what that would be called.
Yes, I read a book. What was it? Oh my God, Zero. Oh my God, Camp Zero. That had. Yep. There's a. It's a climate fiction, but yes, that is a genre.
Or they definitely felt like there were those elements. It was there was just a lot going on, and I definitely felt like throughout there was like an eerie tone to it.
Very ominous tone, like things are not going to get better.
You just summed up the book. Things are not going to get better.
Like you hope. I kept hoping. I'm like, okay, they're going to figure this out. Like I was like, okay, they're going to figure this out and get rid of it. But then I was like, I hope it eats all of them. So it's like I wanted it to get better, but then I didn't want it to get better because I think the whole place was just horrible. It just needs to go down and start fresh.
Yeah. Thank you for suggesting that climate dystopian. All right, cool. That makes more sense to me. I just don't know enough about the right wording for the genres, but so glad.
There's so many different genre types out there that I can't keep up with all of them.
Yeah. And this one just felt like they had so much going on.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even know. I feel like you can't just necessarily categorize it into like one particular genre. There's so much going on, I guess. All right. So second question. There's musical influences like Dolly Parton and Cher are mentioned in the story. Are there other artists you would refer to or where you would reference for the Marigold?
Oh my gosh. I thought that part was funny with the tarot cards. I'm like, I would have just walked out right there. I'm like, we're done. We're done. I didn't think about that. Let's see. It's so funny. I haven't thought of that, but putting that there, I immediately thought of Lady Gaga because she always does such interesting, wild things. And I just thought of this book as just something wild and eclectic, and you don't know what's going to happen around the corner. So I thought of that. And then I also thought of, excuse me, I'm sorry. That's okay. Work lately has been, it's like I have licorice tea, which if you go to my sprints, I always have. So, but I also thought of Marilyn Manson because he does really weird things. I mean, I don't know what he's doing now. I'm old school. So back in the day, Marilyn Manson in his prime, who I could not stand because of the images on screen. Music was fine. I thought of that whenever I thought of like the mold, just chaos and weirdness and changing. And don't know what you're going to see next. So that was really weird. But yeah, no music per se in my head, but artists definitely.
Yeah, and just like I think one of the references for Cher, or what they say about Cher, is that they're like the master of reinvention. And so I guess I was kind of like thinking about that. But Lady Gaga is such a great choice. I might think about it. So I was thinking, again, I still think I like your choices better, but I was thinking 9 Inch Nails was someone. And then I know it's a totally different like tone of music, but I was thinking of Hozier only because of his lyrics, his kind of like ominous, eerie lyrics at times.
I know those names, but I can't pinpoint any music.
I'm sure you know. At the very least, you know 9 Inch Nails because that was like around the same time as like at least the height of both of them were around the same time with Marilyn Manson or whatever. But yeah, but Lady Gaga, that was a great choice. I didn't even think about that. Great choice. Let me see. Where am I at? Okay. Narrative framing. Who do you think is a protagonist and antagonist of the story?
Ooh. Okay, I would say protagonist. Kathy and Jasmine, they were trying to do good, kind of, sort of. Yeah, they were trying to do good. They were trying to quantify. Henrietta, who was looking for a friend, excuse me. I would say Cabeza as well, because Cabeza, he was trying, or they, them, it was trying to kind of branch out from the collective and kind of free itself in a way from that collective and be its own person and find its body. So I thought that was interesting. It was trying to help instead of consume, everybody into its own being. So I guess I would say Soda is maybe a protagonist. And his dad was wild. It was wild. So I would say them. And then antagonists, oh man, pretty much everybody else in the book. Everybody, including the wet.
Yeah.
But the wet could be a protagonist too, because I feel like the wet is just like I don't know, it's a natural element. I mean, I was kind of confused about like, where did it really come from, But I'm assuming it's a natural thing that was born of the earth from basically human beings just basically taking. So I would say it's just reclaiming what was already there. So we could say that that's a protagonist, if you will, even though it's consuming people.
Yeah. I felt like that was the antagonist and protagonist, like specifically felt a little bit difficult to like pin down. So I was thinking it more like maybe capitalism is like the antagonist, and the protagonist would be, which doesn't happen in the story, which is I think part of the problem, is like that would be any type of connection, any type of community, and that doesn't occur because no one's trying to like network for the good in this book. They're all like people that are like the worker bees of the gig economy. It just feels like so like isolated and alone, and just like so many characters are like in survival mode.
Yeah.
And then you have the people that are really wielding the power and have the money. They seem to be networking a bit, but they're all like terrible people. So it's just like none of them are really, they're not really trying to build a sense of community. And no one's leaving, right? They're all trying to survive or make money in Toronto.
Their community is amongst themselves so that they thrive in their little naked ceremonies. But that's about it. But even then, they don't really have any loyalty to each other either. It's, who's going to be on top. I think it's like a symbiotic relationship. Maybe that's not the word. Just a mutually symbiotic relationship with at least the people that was in that little room, on the fourth floor, because then you have Threshold that's trying to get a handle in there too, but they're also antagonists as well because they're looking out for their bottom line, either buying up properties and stuff, and even trying to define what the wet is only for their own advantage. It's not really to help anybody.
Yeah, yes. Again, it's never really about helping anyone. It's just all about like self-interest and what could be gained financially.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was an interesting. I was like trying to like think about it in terms of like other books I read, but this just feels so different. That I don't think it's necessarily always, or at least for me, it wasn't easy to pin down like who's a protagonist or antagonist in the story. So that was interesting. Let me see if this is the right one. Oh yeah, it is. Okay. Wildlife. So there's an eerie sense the birds know something. The gardener said a bird could learn your name and then outlive you. He didn't trust birds. A raccoon was said to have taken over the fourth floor and refused to move. Odie ignores a single raccoon that sat in the back of a streetcar, propped up like a person. What do you think? What what role do you think animals play in the story?
For one, I will say it was creepy with all the raccoons around. I kind of didn't get why that specific animal, but I think the animals themselves, I consider them as part of natural nature. So I feel like they are just there because they know what's coming. So they're just kind of waiting around looking for the humans to destroy themselves so they can take over. That's what, especially towards the end, that's exactly what I thought of. The raccoons were just waiting around. It's like, are you done yet? Like, this is my spot. Like, why would a raccoon be in the cab? You know, just waiting. It's like, hey, you know, this is my thing. But I thought that was very interesting of just the choice of the raccoon, because they're scavengers and, you know, they just kind of tear up things, which are what I think humans are doing, you know, just scavenging in a different way. But I think that they play a good role as far as with just kind of, we will inherit the earth after you leave, you know, as that other entity there.
Yeah, I just felt like there's so many elements of let's say like these people that are helming the money and the corporations that they're so busy trying to control things in a way. They control what they make, control the narrative. And I feel like with nature, it's something that it doesn't matter what happens or how they try to brand it. There's no real like controlling nature, even when they're trying to manipulate it, right? With the wet. So I just found that interesting that was any type of conversation that had to do with animals. I found interesting, or like also slightly funny in a book that's so dark. You know, just like this idea that a raccoon is just chilling in the car upright, like,
waiting around.
Yeah, I think you put it best. He's just waiting for everyone else to go. He's like, this is my turf. I'm just doing my thing, waiting for you to go. So I thought that was really interesting. So that is a little bit long, but I promise I'll get to a point because there is just a lot to cover. So with the wet, on page 21, the Threshold District humming and buzzing with their own surveillance, making note of every fluctuation to make a better city, a smarter, safer city. That was a line that rang through Soda's brain. A city that owned every action you took, collated, stored, redistributed, realigned, and filled it away for undisclosed purposes. It spread slowly, twisting through the concrete. And on page 49, Solomon and his brothers were part of a collection of kids who didn't use phones anymore. Easier to slip through the city without being tracked. All the digital security companies working with the police to keep tabs on anymore they are interacted with on the street. And then on 233, the Threshold seemed more interested in monitoring the wet rather than wiping it all out at once. They wanted to see what it could do, maybe how it could be put to use. What do you think is the function or the purpose of the wet?
I think the wet, I don't know. I kept thinking that it's because there's no technology involved in the wet. So I felt like it was, I know it's like a main character, if you will, in the book, but I felt like it was there to basically consume people, to kind of bring us back into, well, not us, but just the world state, into like a natural state of being without all these other interventions that, you know, have come about as the world has progressed. I think that it was I was confused initially about what it was. It was just some little bitty mold or something until it started like spreading and all. But I felt that it was like a kind of like I'm having a hard time trying to like quantify or qualify it in my head. But
it's okay. There's a lot going on in the book.
Yeah, I feel like it was like the way it called to people. I just felt like it was one of those things that kind of preyed on people's insecurities. Because in this big world where you have like all, well, not everybody, but you have this modernity, right? You have like this Marigold with a big hotel. You have the government tracking people. People that are getting tired of that, where cell phones and being around technology was a huge thing at one point, right? So people are kind of getting away from that because they feel like they're uncomfortable with that, right? So, but you have this wet that's kind of intrusive into their own thoughts and insecurities and, knows all the things about them, right? So it's almost kind of like it's replacing the governments and these private corporations as well in a more natural way. So it's kind of absorbing them back into this natural form where you didn't have all of this technology and all of these modern things that kind of consume people. So I feel like it's just a tool to consume people in a different way into more of this collective. So instead of like being this, how everybody walks around on their cell phone, right? So it's like it's like you're a blob, like you go into a classroom or the mall and everybody's like sitting there on their phone, right? So you're all in different entities doing different things, right? But in the end, you're all this mindless people just scrolling on the phone. So I can just put y'all all into this one collective being right here in the corner, right? There's no difference between all these people. Whereas the collective, I feel like it's kind of taking that away and putting you into this one collective sentient being that seems to function as one, just to kind of gather everybody together. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just feel like I just kept thinking it kind of is taking the place of the government in oversight of people, just in a more natural way.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. That's kind of like what I was thinking as well, as I was like reading it, because I couldn't figure out like how conscious or the wet is, because it does seem like it preys on people's like insecurities, their desires. It's definitely listening, but then because I don't know how conscious this the wet is, and yeah, so I definitely think that it's just a different kind of surveillance that's going on, because in Toronto, in this version of Toronto, it is heavily surveilled digitally. And so I thought the Marigold exists. We know the mold's growing on in it, but it's more of like the financial status and like class status of its existence, versus the inside where this mold is growing. And I guess I was thinking I almost thought, okay, well, the people that married the Marigold, at least initially and actually right up to the end, I thought, well, the people that own the Marigold and have it exist and are already, they put it together so quickly because of they just want what it means financially and the status. But I also thought, well, they wouldn't want something like the mold to exist. But by the end, we realized that I guess one of the guys was like also enmeshed with the gardener, and so they want to do the same thing again, which completely confused me as to why. But I think your points about how it's like this other form of surveillance makes sense. They also don't seem to really care about humanity. I mean, like the people that created the Marigold don't seem to really care about what's happening. They just kind of want to figure out like new ways to rebrand.
Yes.
And there's kind of like no links they're willing to go to get to rebrand it. I just found that interesting.
It was horrible.
Yes.
It was horrible. But the mold, I feel like it like seeps into you. You know how with like when people surveil, right? It's like a bird's eye view, kind of, like cameras, bird's eye view. They were talking about cell phone tracking. It's more invasive, but it's something that kind of slowly seeps into your life, gathering information bit by bit for whoever the powers that be is going to use it, right? Whereas you have the mold that kind of seeps into you just in a different way. How? I don't know. It kind of has some telepathy thing going on to a certain extent. So I'm not sure, but it's kind of seeping into your mind to bring you to the willpower. Same thing, I guess, with your body as well. So I just feel like it's just another form of kind of keeping tabs, but it's to pull you into that collective, kind of like a control thing, you know?
Yeah. And then also kind of like her saying, we're discussing about like preying on like insecurities. That kind of reminds me of just like commercialism and how things are sold to people. Like it's sometimes I feel like the marketing of things is another way of like preying on people's insecurity. It's like, hey, let me tell you how bad aging is. Instead of if we just love ourselves and just age, that'd be great. But then people that own corporations won't be able to sell their products, right? So they kind of want to sell that there's something wrong with us.
Mm-hmm.
We'll buy the thing. And so it kind of felt like that about the wet in some ways. It's this uncontrollable growth going on, but it definitely feels like it there's a duality there, right? There's a mold and then there's someone trying to escape it or whatnot. But there's definitely like a desire to hook us in by an insecurity
Mm-hmm.
in order for us to like become one with it or something.
So it's like a level of manipulation with the mold, just like how it is with some of the people inside of it, in the book, because you had the characters like in the book, as far as with people, you had those that were surviving, like the Henriettas, the Cherries, the Kathys, the Jasmines of the world, right? So they're just surviving, just trying to make it, right? But then you have the Stanleys and the Abigails and the Sydneys of the world that are thriving, right? Well, wouldn't the mold want to thrive too, right? Because you have this thing that was created, however, and you're feeding it, right? But then it's like with this corporate greed, it's like you're paying the price with the body, right? You're paying a price to get this mold to do what you want it to do, right? So it's like, I mean, if you want to look at it, it's like, hey, I want my cut too. I want to thrive as well. So the mold's just like growing out of control and taking more bodies on its own. So that's almost kind of like, I mean, if we're going to analyze it, you have this greed on the mold part too. I think it's more of a natural form. I mean, I think of it as something natural because it comes from the earth, because you're giving the earth something in order to take something, right? You're giving an earth the body, planted this seed in order to build a building on top of the earth. So you're using the earth for something, right? So I'm assuming this is something that's a natural element inside of the earth, right? But it's like, I felt like the mold wants to thrive too. And it's this sentient being, how it came to kind of know itself and its place in the world. I'm not sure, but I feel like it's almost doing exactly what the other people are doing. It doesn't want to just survive. It wants to thrive. And by thriving, you have to generally grow. That's why these rich people, the Stanleys and Alberts and whatever the world, are trying to build these towers because somehow they need money, right? So they are trying to thrive and grow. Well, that's what the mold is trying to do as well. It's like, okay, I'm going to thrive and take over from all y'all.
Yeah, it was definitely felt like a complicated character for me to get like a grasp on, or like I can't necessarily easily define it. There's just a lot going on.
This is one of those books, I think, that how when you're in school and they want you to like overanalyze a book and what does this mean and all this stuff. This will be one of those great books for that.
All right, I'll go on to the next question. Rebranding. Okay, so on page 42, Stan's point of view, that was part of why Andrea never worked out. She didn't believe in Marigold, didn't believe in what she was selling. Even if it's a lie, you need to believe it. You have to sever part of yourself to hold two truths at once. Split yourself down the middle if you must, but make sure You can exist in multiple realities. Stan was born into the split state, balancing various truths and sacred beliefs based solely on who was in the room. And then on page 99, there's a little bit of a conversation about like the gig economy. And so it goes, with fixed menu prices, they could rely on branding that sold people on an experience. Varsha's food in Dartmouth had never been the best Indian food on the East Coast. What mattered was how it was pitched, how it was sold. Tell people what they wanted to hear, lead them into their own desires. What are your thoughts on these examples of rebranding?
I think those are really great examples of rebranding. I think that rebranding allows people to thrive. Everybody likes something new, or at least to say it's something new, whether it's really something new or not. It's all kind of the same thing, just in a different form. So I think those are good examples, because you got to make people believe something, right? Because that's pretty much what it is. Like, it's a marketing thing, right?
Yeah.
You're having somebody believe that they're getting something new, something special that was different than what they had before, and you hook, line, and sinker them right in.
Yeah, it also felt like they're great examples of how selling something is more about being able to basically like manipulate. Like, it could be the same product. You can have two of the same product. It could be the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just about like the branding and rebranding of something.
Mm-hmm.
It could be toxic. It could be the mold. It could be healthy for you.
Yeah.
It could be all these different things.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the person selling it doesn't even have to care. They just had to figure out how to appeal to somebody else. Just shine that ish real good.
Yeah, it's like the Marigold's falling apart, but they're like, let's build the Marigold too. Just the fact that it's brand new, somebody's going to probably want to go into it, even though, they're not too happy with the other one. And, most of the units aren't even sold,
Yeah, or even the idea that Stan, there's just like a level of like, it almost feels like a sociopath of him saying like, you have to, for what he's trying to sell, the idea of believing a lie is wild. To just be like, and I don't know what that's saying. I don't know if it's like trying to say that people are actually conscious and know like what would be morally right, but they need to flip that. They need to turn that other cheek
Mm-hmm.
to sell something. Putting renters in a dangerous, unhealthy place to live, because there's quite literally mold is dangerous, and
Stan didn't care. It was like, they'll adjust.
Yeah, or just like how bad by the end, how much of a problem the mold is in the Marigold. And I don't know if it was Stan or someone else, but they're just like trying to refigure out how to rebrand.
Mm.
And sell it as an advantage or something that they'd want to be around. Because even though they quickly made this building incredibly unsafe, they're already figuring out how to make the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the creation of the Marigold, there somewhere in the book they said something about how they're trying to sell it like as the opposite of gentrification, because that's what's going on. But instead, they're trying to, as far as the branding goes, they're branding off giving a sense of community, even though it's the opposite. They could have a structure there. That doesn't mean that it actually is community, and it's actually doing it's doing so much harm, and everyone is so isolated. And we have, what is it called? Is it the threshold? The people that go in and check on the mold?
Oh no, that's the what is it? That's the Department of Health with Kathy and Jasmine.
Yes.
Threshold is the private place that's
Oh, that
trying
is true.
to company that is attempted to gentrify, but wants to know what the wet is about first.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
that
yeah.
they care. They said we want to know what we're buying if we're going to buy it, or what we're selling if we're going to sell it. So they don't care one way or the
Yeah. And
other.
that was because the health and safety people, what was interesting is like they are also ill-equipped. They don't have a sufficient like
They're
safe.
masks. They're like
Yeah.
remaking them themselves, like
Yes.
fixing them.
Yes. So
Oh,
the government is even looking after them as well. So we have that going on, plus the threshold,
hmm,
which is like starts to get in cahoots with the ladies because they're trying to figure out what's going on.
yeah.
But yeah, all that's going on, and it feels like no one really gets out scot-free with it. No one's really trying to help this situation get better, it feels like. And and so it's it definitely feels like the opposite of community once again. And so but then the people that like stand, they're like, we don't care. I'm gonna sell this, I'm gonna rebrand this, we're gonna make this mold sound real good.
And he was just like, he was like, I'm gonna let the mold consume this building. It'll be like a shrine or something. I'm not gonna even tear it down. Like he was manipulating himself. I'm like, dude, you have lost control and you don't even realize it. Like I think he was falling off the building and still thinking he had it under control. I don't know. Stan was it, as much as I love to hate him, he was one of my favorite characters. He was so bold. Him and that the guy who had he was only there for one chapter. Sunil, I don't know. I can't read my handwriting, but he was the food delivery app developer. He went
Okay,
on that whole rant about with the delivery driver about I own you, you'll be nothing. I was just like, wow.
yeah.
It wouldn't be so shocking if I haven't heard something like that in my life in the past.
Yeah.
But I was just like, there's some nasty characters in here. Where's the wet? Where's the wet? It's coming. The wet's on its way. You hold tight right here. The wet is on its way.
That's definitely how I felt like really early on. There were some whether it was a rebranding conversation or like the early on corporate conversations that really I had been a job for like 10 years and it got bought out and the people that bought it were terrible, and the way that they talk in this book in like the corporate sense and like a cold weird way was why I left. Like the conversations they were having, I'm like, this is not, how do you sleep at night? This is crazy.
And they try to gaslight you to think that they have your best interest at heart. It's like, no, you don't. You got to read between the lines. But I feel like all of these characters are that way. Like you're talking about rebranding, but a lot of them, like you have, okay, of course you have Stanley, right? But then you have like all the I call them small characters, the ones that were there for a chapter before they got consumed with the wet, right? So you had the lady that basically killed her dad by just letting him fall, she was like, okay, this will all pass over, so pretty much I'll come out on top, right? So it's kind of like a way of rebranding herself without her dad, right? Get all of that money. Then you had the lady who was doing like the sex work, okay? She doing her thing in the little tower. Then you have the guy with the app, same type thing as he was trying to make it seem like his app was better and different than Uber Eats and all the other ones. No, you are no different. Same thing with the what was it? The like the self-driving cars and stuff like that, and not needing any money and things like that. But it really wasn't. That's why Soda was like, I'm going to continue to drive a cab because I've already seen the direction that's going to go. It's not good, but they're trying to brand it as something great that, is benefiting the public, but it's nothing, and then you got these hotels that I don't even get, like, you're losing money, right? So you're going to build these multi-million-dollar towers to somehow make money. I don't even understand that either. Like, you're almost broke. You're saying we're going broke, which I don't know. I'm not rich. So maybe rich people broke is like, I don't have 25 million. Maybe I only have 20. So maybe that's broke in their eyes. I don't know, but you're going broke. So you're going to expend more money to build a building to sell units. And that's supposed to save you?
Yeah.
To me, it reminds me of Atlantic City, right? You ever been to Atlantic City in New Jersey?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Atlantic City, New Jersey is basically a bunch of casinos, right? The casino is losing money and basically is going bankrupt. So they sell it to another casino and they just continue to, they invest millions of dollars and make it into a same thing. It's a casino. If the other casino is losing money, you think you're going to do the same thing and not lose money too? I don't get it. But they always say it's a rebranding. We're doing something different. We're new, the grand opening. And I'm like,
Yeah.
People don't have money. They don't have money to come patron your casino. I don't know. That's the way I look at it. But what do I know? I'm not a multimillionaire. Maybe it's something different. Maybe I didn't plant a seed, so I don't know.
Oh, that's very interesting. Also, in the details, I added this investigative piece for our segment. You can always watch it later if you're interested. But like when I was reading this book, it reminded me of like this short investigative piece I saw on Vice. And it was a woman who wanted to, was basically doing an investigation into all these buildings. I think it's like in New York, and how certain buildings you cannot just go in to view. It's just not that simple. And so she basically put on a persona like she's a billionaire. And she learned that actually, because she was like nervous to do it, but she wanted to view these condos or whatever they're called in the buildings. So she was just told, just act more crazy and they'll believe you. They'll think you're a billionaire just because you're acting so wild.
Okay.
And that's how she gained access to see these suites.
Okay.
And so many times she would go in there, and it's like, for us to have a housing crisis now, and it seems like it's never ending, but to see that these buildings are majorly empty because no one could afford them. So they look like, they all look the same. All the suites look the same. There's nothing like unique about them. But when you hear the I guess the realtors, speaking to her, the way they're trying to sell it is just like so ludicrous. Like talking about what kind of marble it is, but everyone looks the same. And there's really no neighbors because no one can really afford to be there. But apparently what rich people do is they will buy that, but it's not really to live in. It's because of the value. So you have empty condos and towers like the Marigold, like we're seeing, where it's not really about actually housing anyone. It's about just the value of it for the people that own it to sell it later. In the meantime, we have people out in the streets that are homeless that need a place to live, but we're not going to do that. We're not going to actually house them. So I found that interesting. Like as far as like what the Marigold symbolizes between the surveillance, between like the rebranding, and how we have these characters that to me sound like psychopaths, to just like to the bitter end, just trying to find new ways to sell.
They believed in their own hype.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you talk about sell, right? So Stanley and his Delulu self is like, okay, we're going to switch our business model. So now you have the wet in a jar, and now you're like, forget the tower. We're going to basically figure out how we can quantify and sell the wet to our own benefit. And I'm like, what in the world? I was just, I was like, no, this guy's out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. So
just everything is something to sell. Everything's a selling point for him.
yes, it's like he has no emotions. Everything is about business, 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 business. You know, like that. What was her name? Was it Andre? No, Jasmine. No, the assistant that he had. They were at the construction site and she fell into the sinkhole. He didn't even think. He was just like, well, now I have to get a new assistant. Wow. Yeah. He was like, she was good. Nah, I'm gonna need a good assistant. That's it. That's the only thing you care about, you know. And then when the wet is consuming, was it Sydney? I think he didn't even really care. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, yeah, he's a little psychopath or sociopath. Either one, but he's into his own little world. Everything's about business. But his dad was that way too, you know. That's that generational trauma. It goes from one to the next, where you don't really care. Everything's about business, you know. You're like, you're at the restaurant, right? Remember his dad came up at the restaurant, and to save face in front of all these people, you throw mashed potatoes in your daddy's face? Like, what was that about? He was like, I'll see you next time I see you. It'll be on your deathbed. I don't know, something like that about on your deathbed. But I'm like, you're throwing potatoes in your dad's face in front of all of these people because you're concerned more about what they think than the fact that this old frail man who made you is sitting right here. That was crazy. I don't know. Stan's just out of control. You have this entity that's like consuming people, and you're like, oh, it's in a jar, fighting to get out, mind you. Like I just felt the whole time he was holding it, I was just thinking of like, what was that? Remember in Ghostbusters when they had the slime? Yeah. And they had it like in the container, and then they put it in the toaster oven. But when they would put some sort of strong emotion nearby, it would start popping around or whatever and reacting to it. That's what I thought of the wet in the jar that he had. And they kept talking about how it was moving and stuff. And I'm just like, that wet's gonna come out and just get on your face. That's what I just thought of. I'm like, this is something you're trying to contain. You don't even have a team behind you to figure out what this really is. And he's like, we can sell this. We can figure out. We just got to figure out a good marketing and how this market. People will buy this. We can use it. As long as we control it, it's fine. That was his thing. As long as we are able to control it, it can do whatever it wants. And I'm like, how can you control it? It's eating your building from the ground up, including your tenants. But you think you can control it.
Yeah. Which felt like that's so much of the that's a delusion that he's under, right? That's the ego. The idea that they could control something that's a part of nature is just like, it's wild because they can't. But I'll say hello to the chat. Hey, Bree. Moving on to the next question, which is basically the last one before my three questions that I always do. Okay, so classical influence. Did this feel like a classic retelling to you? Did you think the gardener and the wet reflect Frankenstein and the monster? Because that's kind of the vibes I was getting from when I read it.
Ooh, I didn't think of that. I wouldn't say that, because even though the wet was like, you made me, I wouldn't say that, because for one, I think the dad, like the gardener's dad, didn't he say it was passed down? So the Marigold's been up a while. I don't know how old the gardener is, so his dad may have been. But that's also like something passed through generations too, of being the seed planter. But I don't know. I feel like when I don't think it's a Frankenstein, because with Frankenstein, it's like you got all these different parts together, right? And then you use technology to put it together, right? Mm-hmm. And I felt like this was more of the gardener or whoever else planted a seed, and then it kind of growing and creating itself. So I didn't get Frankenstein vibes at all with this.
I did kind of like, just not like entirely, but just like the framework of it. Like once the gardener came into the picture, and then we realized what the gardener did. I was thinking like a little bit like Frankenstein, and the wet was like the monster, but just lightly, because it's so much of this definitely feels like its own original thing.
Mhm.
Excuse me, but that's just what kind of like stood out to me. But then the story goes so off the rails, so then that idea kind of got buried with the wet. But that's just like stuck out to me. So I was kind of wondering what your thoughts are, and I'm definitely interested in finding out like what are the other influences of this author. It also felt very like cinematic in a way, so I'm kind of interested in like what kind of movies he's interested in. Like maybe he likes David Lynch or something like that. Just it's like these bizarre neighborhood worlds that we kind of like get a chance to like dip into. But yeah, that's just what I was thinking. So we're reaching the end. So I'm going to ask my 3 questions, which are, why does Lestat have this book on their shelf?
I think that Lestat has his book on the shelf because Lestat, I think, is very much interested in people. How he can manipulate them, how he can kind of control them, and just in general, just to kind of see what people do. So I think this is one of those books with a pretty wide, diverse cast of people. So I mean, I can see Lestat sitting there in a lobby, like with like as a lobby attendant, and seeing people coming and going and like getting their stories. Like that's kind of what I was thinking of with him. But you have all these different people that you get to see kind of just how they live their lives. Many of them bad, and Lestat has done some bad things, I will say. But you know, you basically have a city that's in chaos, you know, with people that are like surviving and thriving, you know, and I see Lestat as somebody that's basically kind of surviving with the air of thriving. And I think that this book would appeal to him because of that, because you have so many different things to look at and maybe for him to relate to.
Yeah, you know, I like how you initially said about like just his aptitude for manipulation, basically. I guess I was thinking he has done so many bad things as a vampire, and I think this book reflects like the nefariousness of humanity, and the apathy at times. And so I almost feel like him reading this book would reinforce his bad behavior.
Give him some ideas. He'll probably listen to Stanley too much.
Like I think he would see how nefarious, or it would like kind of reinforce his worldview of enabling him to do the bad things he does to his victims.
Mhm.
He does like to play with his victims in a way that Louis doesn't like. But I also feel like to him, when he reads this book, he's gonna think, well, humanity is already doing the worst anyways. So why can I not be my badass self?
That's true. Like, let me add into the mix. I wonder what he would think of the wet, though. Like the wet is basically like it's sometimes like it's spreading. Um, I feel like in a way it kind of represents him in a way because it's something outside of the control and it's something that's spreading, right? And you know, Lestat very much likes to be in control, even if it's through manipulation, right? So, but you have this wet that is basically something that was made, if you will, and then it's just continued to kind of spread on its own and learn as it consumes people and change over time, right? Which is why another reason why I think this would be something that Lestat would be interested in. But I think also in a way it kind of represents him too, because you know, like he was made, don't really know much about his maker. I don't believe he had a choice in the matter either, right? So the wet I don't know. They never really did say that the wet really had a choice in like I don't know exactly how it was made. They just said that a seed was planted and it just kind of came to be. But it's the idea that you have this entity of this wet of this mold that's just proliferating. But it has no choice but to survive, because it's like feeding on people. So it's like, why not thrive while I'm here, and it just keeps consuming people. But it's just something that's outside of anybody else's control to try to control it. So I think that Lestat would probably enjoy that. I wonder how he would relate to it though if he encountered it.
He would find some way to have a wild time. I know that.
It's like, let's work together in tandem, get people to do what we want. He beats Stanley. That leads to another.
All right. So did this book contextualize or recontextualize the character of Lestat for you?
Back to what I was about to say. Yeah, Stanley. I felt like he's
Yes.
kind of like the Stanley of the world. Okay. People are like an experiment. You don't really have much feelings, at least on the surface. I do think he has feelings, but he tries to hide them because that would show weakness. And it's definitely not something Lestat likes. But it's like a power grab. Okay. I want people to do what it is they want me to do, or do what it is I want them to do. And if they don't just automatically, then I'm going to find a way and manipulate. So I immediately thought, as I was reading this, about like that Stanley is him, that he embodies that character very, very well. I mean, not to mention all these vampires for some reason tend to always have a bunch of money. So it's like, there we go.
I would be a good vampire because honestly, I would rather just go into the forest and I would never want to come back to society. I was like, I'm broke. I would be broke like broke. So I think you make some good points as far as like his connection to Stan. I also think that really the portion that we read about Stan needing or being accepting himself in a tandem state of psychosis, of needing to believe the lies and being willing to live in these like two existences is really does remind me of Lestat, because he's a character that, yes, he lives long and somehow he does survive out of sheer will and endurance. But I think that also happens because the level of delusion, there just has to be a level of not learning the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the lesson smacks him in the face, there has to be a level of not just believing the lie, but denial of any like bad actions in order to survive to the next moment. Because how do you deal with your conscience?
See, and that's the thing. When the uber rich don't really need to. It's just like celebrities behaving badly.
Yeah.
You don't really learn because who's there to tell you no? You're super rich, people bow down at your feet. So you just keep doing the same or different stupid things, because who really is going to tell you no if you don't have somebody checking for you, or if your whole moral compass isn't there? And so that to me is like Lestat. I mean, over time, he lives a long time. He's good. If he does something really bad in one life, okay, people are going to die off. So who's to tell him no long term that was something really bad? Plus, he's a vampire and he can do what he wants and kill him or just move away or whatever. So, I mean, I think the only people that he really cared about, person he cared about, was Louis. And that's because he just didn't want him to leave. So it's like he did the bare minimum just to allow him to stay. And I mean, did he even really care if there's more for companionship? Because he don't want to be alone, but he's not going to say, hey, I don't want to be alone. So it's just, and then also, as far as with contextualizing his character, okay, he's like very kind of flamboyant and stuff like that, right? And I felt like the ceremony Stanley and the other people did, what was that ceremony called? Anyway, when I went to the restaurant, I took off their clothes and put on the white robe, and I'm just like, this is too much. This is like team extra. I wouldn't mind something more coming from that, by the way. It's like, I didn't get it. But still, it's just this idea of having this elaborate ceremony that's not really needed. It's like they're just believing their own hype of specialness, you know? So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. All right. So my last question, what book would you recommend to Lestat? And while you're answering, I'm going to go look for one because I forgot to pick one.
Oh, I should have let me see if I can put it up. Okay, so I would recommend for Lestat's actually a series. It's by John Mars. It's let me see, the one, I'll call it the one series. It's in the one universe. Let me see, I'm trying to find the book. But basically you have like government control. This book right here, John Mars. So I've actually read 3 books in this series. There's the one, the Marriage Act, and the Family Experiment. But it's basically where you have the government that is basically controlling. Well, in this one, actually, that's not true. The second one, the government gets more involved. But basically, the one is about how technology has evolved to be able to do a blood test to determine who your soulmate is, okay? And it's by a private corporation. And, you know, of course, there's flaws in the plan. And just like this book, it follows like a big cast of characters, and you get to see people in relationships, people not in relationships, some people that have found out they're a match, other people find out they are not a match, and it's like, what do you do? So basically it's that human connections and what happens if technology tells you it's meant to be or it's not to be meant to be, you know, and how technology gets involved. So I thought that was just very interesting because you have manipulation of that data as well, and how that can basically kind of skew and manipulate people in their brain chemistry about what they should think about a life that maybe they were happy with or maybe not so happy with either. And you know, it's about human choices that they wind up having to make in that. But I thought it was just very interesting, just the control factor in that, and technology kind of controlling kind of who you should be with. But that series, that's like the first book in the series. The second book is the Marriage Act, where basically the government kind of gives incentives and kind of controls and directs people to marry for incentives. And if you're single, you're basically discriminated against. And then the third book in the series, The Family Experiment, where there's also another level of control about like families and stuff. So just very interesting series. It's a lot like this one, where it introduces just a lot of different concepts and how they interact with each other. And I think that I think Lestat would eat this series up like water. It was really good. I enjoyed it. Hey, Mel.
Yes. Thank you for passing through and doing the little boop boop. Always happy to see you.
Yeah. And apparently for the one, there is a series. I have not seen it, but there's a series that was made, I think on Netflix or something, based off of that book, but I have not seen it. But it's called The One Universe if y'all are interested in this series by John Mars. But very, very, very good. A lot of government surveillance and spying and manipulation.
Yeah, I haven't heard of the adaptation, so now I'm gonna have to go check that out. That's interesting.
It was years ago. Someone told me when I was talking about this book, was it last year before last? Someone told me about it. And, you know, I'm a procrastinator, so I haven't seen it, but I hear it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think I heard about the one from you, I think, because I hadn't heard anything about that. So that's interesting. All right. So very last minute, I chose The Last Emperor of Mexico by Edward Shawcross. So the dramatic story of the Habsburg Archduke who created a kingdom in the New World. This is like a nonfiction history piece. I haven't read it yet, but I'm looking forward to reading it. And so it says, in the 1860s, Napoleon III intent on curbing the rise of American imperialism, sent French troops to Mexico, overthrowing its government and replaced the republic with a monarchy, persuading a young Austrian archduke and a Belgian princess to leave Europe and become the emperor and empress. Then only 31 and 23 years old and political novices, Maximilian and Carlotta arrived in a Mexico ruled by terror, where revolutionary fervor was barely suppressed by French troops, as they redecorated palaces and created a court in a place they knew nothing about. Mexico's great liberal leader, Benito Juarez, continued to fight the new regime. So it kind of goes on from there. And so someone like Lestat, that would be all about Dan in here. I think that maybe he might have a glimpse of why this doesn't work and then promptly lose a lesson.
He was like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Especially for later on, because like as far as the movies go, there's the Interview with the Vampire movies, and then later on there was Queen of the Damned with Aaliyah as the queen. And so he, Lestat's someone that has gone into some like nefarious actions along with the queen. So I think that's kind of like a great tie-in with that book. But again, he would hear the lesson for 1 second and then say nope and just keep it pushing.
It's like, I'm gonna do my own thing.
All right, Courtney, thank you so much for having this book discussion. Is there anything coming up that you want to let everyone know before we close this out?
Aspirin on Tuesday. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I had a video come out today. If you want to check that out. And that's about it. I'll be around book 2. I enjoy my time here. I hope to see read some good books, and hopefully y'all do too.
Yeah, and also, was there anything that you're currently reading before we take off?
Actually, I finished this book last night, so I've not picked up another book. Right now, this will be my second book right here, though, or second book. My next book, it's a graphic novel. I figured I needed a palate cleanser right here. But I will say that I am actually doing, I still need to name it. I'm gonna do a little book club, but right now I'm gonna just call it a buddy group read. So for February, I posted it yesterday. I will be doing a buddy read if y'all are interested, with a live discussion later in the month. It's on my community tab, but it's called Wench by Dolan Valdez, I think. Anyway, very interesting book, good synopsis, something you don't really hear every day. So if y'all are interested, check out the book and pick it up. You have all month to read it. At the end of February will be a discussion. So
I'll look forward to that. All right, so I'm currently reading, but I've had a hard time concentrating, so I'll probably have to reread it. Another Country by James Baldwin. It's a little over 400 pages. Ooh. It's still for this Lestat's bookshelf. So it takes place in France. Beautiful writing, but I think I'm just like not in the right mindset. So I'm gonna start reading it again, and I probably won't have the review ready for this coming Wednesday. But it'll be coming. It'll be coming soon, sometime in February. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Courtney, for joining me on this wild, crazy book experience. Thank you, everyone. And just remember that life is chaos. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and read more books. Bye.